Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Now available on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
The Steve Austin Show is brought to you free today by our friends at BetOnline. Get in the mix at betonline.ag and use the promo code PodcastOne for your 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts and exclusive partner of PodcastOne Sportsnet.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch and an occasional side trip to Mexico, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, from the Onnit.com Total Human Optimization Studio, here's Steve Austin.
No, you damn right, everybody. Welcome to the Steve Austin Show. As I'm recording this show right now, it is Friday. It is 12:15 in the p.m. I'm ready to knock this show out, head down to the liquor store, get my ass a 12-pack of beer, get ready for the weekend. Football season ain't quite here. It's right around the corner, though. I'm ready for it. I'm going to go ahead and get me a damn 12-pack down. I'm not trying to trim up. I was trying to trim up, Mo. I said piss on it. I'm going to go ahead and drink a beer this weekend. Well, 12 of them, as a matter of fact. So I got good things going this weekend. What about you?
Oh, man, I'm actually really excited. I got a bunch of friends in town for a wedding. So one of my good buddies from Spain is coming in. Another good buddy from New York is coming in. So we're all meeting up and going to get a little wild.
Dude, you got some friends from all over the place.
Yeah.
Man, I'm kind of a loner. I left out of my crib this morning, and I thought I was just going to have like a nice little easy drive into work. And, I've talked all the time about stuff that happens when I'm behind the wheel. And pedestrians, texting and not having their head out of their ass when they're walking down the street. So as soon as I pull out of my driveway, I come to the first stop sign, I make a complete stop, and when I do, I got a big-ass coffee mug, and that motherfucker holds about a gallon of coffee, and that sumbitch tumbles down the floor, but I had the lid lock on it, and none of it dripped out on my carpet. And then I looked to the right before I was going to take off, and I went ahead and hit the gas pedal where there's a pedestrian walking across the street, didn't even stop to pick his damn face up out of his damn iPhone, and I damn near clipped him with the right side of my bumper, and I just look at this motherfucker, I'm like, man, dude, obviously, he don't listen to the Steve Austin Show. I try to protect my listeners by telling them to look before you cross the road. I had already made my complete stop. This sumbitch walks out in front of me. Bam, I could have clipped him. I'm trying to talk to Samoa Joe, my guest today. All kinds of catastrophic things. And here's another thing. I got over here in Hollywood, and I'm sitting there behind the car in front of me at the stoplight, and the car in front of me had pulled halfway into the pedestrian crossing. So then those dumbass pedestrians who were on their phones texting and walking had to walk around the sumbitch in harm's way. And you just want to go into that window of that guy who pulled into the pedestrian crossing and grab that sumbitch by the scruff of his neck and say, hey, man, what is wrong with you? Do you not see that white line right there? When you see that white line, you must stop behind it. Did you deal with any of this bullshit that I dealt with this morning?
Oh, it wasn't this morning, but that has happened to me as well. And I have my friends are really kind of oddball guys. So this happened where a car pulls into the middle of the intersection. So my buddy opens up the guy's back door of his car, goes through the back seat of his car and comes out the other end and then keeps on walking as kind of like a fuck you to the guy.
Straight up, he did that? Straight
up, and the guy flipped out. He's like, what the? And we're like, don't you be coming in our zone now.
That's a good, I might have to try that one. Hey, how did I look this morning? I looked like I'm probably kind of a little bit sleepy. I had the weirdest dream last night.
Man.
I got Hershey laying right here beside me. So
oh,
Samoa Joe's on the line right now. We're fixing to bring him in. But, Joe, if you hear Hershey cough, and she's been having a cough, and if you hear me cough, it's been the strangest damn thing. I had the weirdest thing happen to me last night. I dreamed last night I made love to a female Sasquatch. And in this dream, I had taken a Viagra. And that's something, when you take a Viagra, it clogs up my nasal passages, and so you can't breathe. And everybody knows it's hard to eat pussy when you cannot breathe. So I busted out my pocket knife, made some modifications to this snorkel, and proceeded to take care of business. So I can only imagine the visual because, me with the snorkel, the bald head, the white chrome dome, going down into the nether regions of a female Sasquatch. That looked like a white submarine heading into the Bermuda Triangle. And the strangest thing is, I woke up this morning, Mo, and I'm coughing up hairballs.
Wow.
I'm coughing up big hairballs. So what I'm going to do when I get home, I'm going to make some modifications. I'm going to put a screen filter on a snorkel gimmick, patent it. I'm going to sell it on Amazon.com. It's going to be called the Sasquatch Pussy Snorkel. The bonus feature is it's not just for eating Sasquatch pussy. It's great for eating hairy human pussy too. 'Cause there's nothing like a big ass bush, and that's all I got to say about that. So Joe, if you hear me coughing, I'm okay, brother. It was just the most real dream I've ever had. And I was going to do a word of the day. The word of the day was going to be cunnilingus, but since we've already gone so far into the details of my bullshit dream, we're not even going to do a word of the day. We're going straight to my guest. My guest today is one of my favorite pro wrestlers on the scene right now, a guy who brings a great presence, great physicality, great solid work to the squared circle, and believe me, I look high and I look low. And I'm a guy who comes from the professional wrestling business. It's a business that I know and love. And when I see somebody with talent, I got to put them over and recognize them. Today, my guest here on the Steve Austin Show is none other than Samoa Joe. Samoa, how are you?
I'm fantastic, man. That's quite an intro, man. I feel very honored right now.
Dude, where are you calling from today? We're sitting in Los Angeles. I know you come from Huntington Beach out here, but where are you at right now?
Yeah, well, actually, we just shipped it over. It's at school time, so we're back out here in our East Coast base in Tampa, and yeah, we try to stay in Cali half the year and out here in Florida half the year, but yeah, we're back out here in Florida. Dude,
I've been watching a ton of your matches starting last night, and of course, you know, I follow you on Twitter and vice versa, and you can follow Joe at Twitter too on at Samoa Joe, and put over your work several times. And, dude, when I was talking to you a couple of times before we started talking about doing this show, I said, man, who trained you? And you mentioned the cat named Cincinnati Red. I had not heard of Cincinnati Red. Now, is he from Cincinnati or is he from Cleveland? Tell me about this cat.
No, he's from the San Fernando Valley out in California.
Of course, parts unknown.
No, he's one of those journeyman pro wrestlers that, you know, made his bones out there on the scene, that did a lot of work down in Mexico and back and forth. And because of that, you know, he had a lot of lucha training, he had a lot of different training. So, I mean, you know, he was largely responsible for, like, a lot of the agility and a lot of the drills and, you know, a lot of the technique that I use now, just because, you know, when I started out in California, there wasn't a lot of wrestling going around in California. And if you wanted to work, especially when I started, you know, you had to head down to the border and then go catch some lucha work and, you know, kind of scrape by with whatever you could. So, I mean, you know, that experience definitely helped out, man. But, yeah, he's a great cat. He worked in USWA for half a minute, and, you know, he may not have gained the accolades, but he was a hell of a trainer and a hell of a guy, and broke me in the right way and took me on the road with him. And, I mean, it was just it was a great experience, a great dude.
Well, dude, what year did you break into business?
99. Broke in 99, and, I mean, like I said, it was just doing little lucha shows, little weekend things. I wasn't really planning on making a career out of it. It was more I was kind of asked to I was doing judo, and they asked me, hey, we got a pro wrestling class. Guys renting the gym out in the afternoon. Just come do it. And, you know, I bit, and it was a good workout, and I dug it. It was a weekend warrior thing, and next thing you know, here I am.
Well, check it out. So you started off, you're doing some judo. How far did you go to that? And what other sports did you participate in high school or growing up?
You know, being Samoan, football is kind of a religion in and of itself to a lot of Samoans. So, you know, played football, my brothers did. Amateur wrestled for a little bit, but judo I did up until probably I started playing football at 16 years old, and I was a California State junior champ. And, I mean, I still love the sport. I still try to keep up with it and catch a spar every once in a while and get in there and roll around guys and, you know, find out if I still got what I had back then. So, I mean, it's a lot of fun, man. I enjoy it.
So what made you fall into the love? What made you? Let me back up. What made you fall in love with the business of professional wrestling? When did you decide, hey, this is what I'm going to do?
Man, it really came down to just something that I knew and I was comfortable with. I mean, before I ever stepped foot in the ring, my parents owned a big college dance troupe, and we toured all over the world, man. You know, my first crib was a show trunk, and it's funny, my mom still has it, and she keeps it. And, you know, my dad wasn't a big proponent of daycare. You know, he didn't want nobody else raising his kids. If he was going to raise his kids, he was going to raise them himself, no matter what. So, I mean, we became a part of the show, man. You know, everybody had a job. You drank, we drummed, we danced, we sing, we do everything, the whole 9 yards, and we pack up the whole damn thing and throw it in the back of the trailer and head on to the next town. So, I mean, it was a unique upbringing, but I mean, it definitely prepared for wrestling. Because when I got in the pro wrestling business, it was like, you know, what's this lifestyle like? Well, you travel all the time, you perform in front of people, you get done, you hit your hotel, you're on to the next town. I was like, well, shit, this is better than my regular job. I mean, fuck. Before I had to actually clean up the goddamn stage and put shit away. At least this time, you know, a couple years I had to clean up a ring, but other than that, I mean, fuck, I get to head back to my hotel and relax for a little bit.
Well, how often were you guys on the road doing this, and how long did this last?
The show's still going today. My brother runs it. My parents retired. I got them a place out here in Florida, and they're relaxing. But I mean, yeah, they're still going strong. And I mean, we were on the road probably, you know, 180 days a year. And this is not just domestically, I mean, internationally. I mean, we toured East and West Germany while the curtain was still up, Taiwan, Japan, China. I mean, we stayed pretty busy. So, I mean, as far as the road and the traveling and the schedule and being out there and performing in front of people and knowing what this lifestyle is all about, I mean, I was already doing it, so it wasn't really that big of a transition.
Well, man, that's an interesting upbringing, and damn sure lends itself to life on the road as a professional wrestler. That's for damn sure. So,
you know, and like a lot of guys too, man. When they run this by their loved ones, their parents and stuff, it was funny, man. I went to my dad and I said, "Papa, I really dig this wrestling thing. I think I'm going to pursue it as a career. I think I want to do this." And part of this was telling him I'm leaving the show, which is, you know, a saga in itself. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, son," he goes, "Are you making money?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "As long as you're making money, that's all I care about. The day you don't make money, you get out." And I was like, "You got it, Pop." Sounds like a fair deal to me.
So you start wanting to get into the business of professional wrestling. You need someone to train you. How do you find Cincinnati Red?
Like I said, man, I was down here. I was at a small little studio, little hole-in-wall place, and I was doing judo and jiu-jitsu because that was like the new hot thing. You know, was done with football, really wasn't doing anything in the afternoons. Always did something physical in the afternoons, got down there, was working out for a couple weeks, and basically the owner of the gym walked up to me and said, "Hey, man, a guy named John Dello," he goes, "I do this little pro wrestling class after jiu-jitsu." He's like, "Do you want to stick around and try it out?" And I was like, "Oh, man, I don't know, man. Like, you know, it's pretty cool." And at the time, you know, you had the whole world on fire up at WWE, and it was all the rage, and I was just like, you know what, all right, I'll give it a shot. Let's try this out. So got in there, did some drills, realized a lot of judo stuff translated over pro wrestling, a lot of pro stuff translated back to judo and stuff. And I mean, I got to admit, man, after the first couple of bumps, I was just like, hey, man, this is pretty cool. I dig this. And then after the first few shows and getting a lot of good feedback from people, I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna explore this great adventure known as pro wrestling.
Now, well, how was Cincinnati Red with his training? I mean, obviously you guys were taking the bumps, and you said a key thing right there. You like taking bumps. There's so many people, man. And for me, too, when I hit that mat, I fell in love because I dug the way it made my body feel, and I knew it was a part of the business. Some people can never adjust to that. For some people, that's an immediate turnoff. But with that being said, so there you are, training with Cincinnati Red. You've got a judo background. What kind of 411 is he laying on you? Lots of chain wrestling, scientific stuff? Because, I mean, you have a very interesting style.
Tons of chain wrestling, a lot of basing, a lot of you know, getting light, getting up, being agile, never being heavy for guys. I mean, just a lot of real like good like core technique training that, you know, you just don't see with a lot of guys, man. You know, like it was funny when I got out in the scene, I kind of figured that everybody was kind of trained in the same style that I was, and was, you know, kind of forced to learn all different styles, not just the American style, but learn the Mexican style, you know, have a working knowledge at the time of the Japanese style and other things. And you know, I was surprised when, you know, that wasn't the case when I got out there. You know, some guys were trained on you know, with a handkerchief and a dime, and other guys were, you know, were awesome athletes who had really good pedigree. So, but, you know, just getting out there with Red, that's what he focused on. He's like, you know, you need to learn how to chain wrestle. And we did the basics first, man. I mean, I didn't get to do one cool thing until months. It seems like all I did was bump for the first 6 to 8 months and just learn how to protect myself. And that's the thing I tell cats. They go to wrestling school, you know, when I go to wrestling school, I learn how to do this. I go, you know what, you're going to go to wrestling school, you know, the most important thing you can learn in life, how to protect yourself. And, you know, I mean, that's what I learned, man. I learned how to protect myself, man. And it was probably the best lesson I ever got in wrestling.
Well, check it out. So you're training with Red, you're getting the basics, you're learning how to bump some chain wrestling, and all of a sudden you're hauling ass and you're going down to Lucha Libre stuff. And, dude, you don't speak any Spanish, do you?
Well, as you found out living in LA, everybody's kind of got a working knowledge enough Spanish to make it happen. So I mean, you know, wrestling's a universal language, man. It's never been a problem in Japan, and it never was a problem down in Mexico. And
it's a universal language. But that being said, a green cat going down to Mexico and being brought up, you know, with a judo background and with some pro training, all of a sudden you're in the lucha system, dude. That's a whole different dynamic. That didn't fuck your head up.
Oh, God, was organized chaos, man. I wouldn't even call it organized, man. I got down there and, these cats want to do 22 million different things, 17 different ways. And, I mean, at the time, like I said, I was just breaking in. I was green as the rolling hills, so I shut my mouth and tried to remember as much as I could and get the damn thing done.
Well, I mean, but that is a damn good way to come up, and especially when your brain is young and fresh and like a sponge can absorb all that stuff. I mean, because these days, as long as I've been in the business, and, I don't wrestle anymore, but I still consider myself in the business and somewhat of, a base of knowledge, but still to this day, when I watch, if I'm down in South Texas, I catch AAA or some other lucha stuff on TV. It's still a little foreign to me. I dig it. I see what these cats are doing. There's a couple of cats down there that I really like that are real aggressive. But, it's still to me, I mean, it's your Rudos, your Technicos, it's just somewhat of a modified clusterfuck. I dig it, but it sure has brought a lot to your game, because when I watch you, I see some lucha. I see a lot of heavy Japan influence. I see, obviously what you could do just from a pro style, stand-up brawling, chain wrestling. How would you define your style, or who helped influence or mold your style? Because you're just a combination of a lot of great things.
I think a lot of the agility and the speed came early from the lucha stuff. But I mean, the guy that really molded my style and really taught me a lot was kind of that guy that kind of sat me into the apple tree the first time and really, gave me an epiphany about the business and what you're trying to do out there was probably Steve Regal. He came in for a little clinic. I was working at a WWE developmental territory at the time, doing some training and stuff. And Regal walked in, and I wrestled a match with him where I damn near stiffed the shit out of him every chance that I got, and was trying to beat the shit out of him to impress him. Much to my benefit, he didn't come in the back and rip my head off right away. He said that he recognized the potential. He sat me down and we started talking about wrestling. And that one single talk was probably one of the biggest epiphanies in my life, because it changed my whole perception about what this business is about, what we're trying to achieve out there, what we're trying to communicate to the fans. And I always thank you for that, man. It was always a great. And like I said, it was a couple weeks, just some talks, and every once in a while I'd give him a call and ask his advice on some stuff. And he was always helpful, always very gracious, and always willing to help a young guy like me kind of further in my career. And the other guy was Hashimoto in Japan. I mean, he was the first guy I worked for in Japan, and I went over there, and he just taught me all about presence, man. Because that guy was 120% presence. I mean, he was a big, fat, chubby, elvis-looking cat, but when he got in the ring, he was a beast. And it just was the aura about him, man. He genuinely he took on this crazy aura, and sitting across the ring from him every night, on these house show tours out there and doing stuff, and you're bound to pick up something.
Now, you're talking about there's a couple of Steve Regals in the business. You're talking about Lord Stephen Regal, William Regal, correct?
Yes.
Man, I tell you what, I was down there in WCW, was back, and it was 92, 93. I guess me and Brian had just started tagging up, if I remember correctly. They just brought Steve Regal in and called him Lord Stephen Regal, whatever the hell it was. And, man, that cat went out there and had his first match and was selling like a sumbitch. And I said, holy shit, who is this guy? Because I'd never heard of him. And here he comes over, and of course, I caught him probably, 10, 12 already years in his career, and he was just the ultimate. And just like you said, he was a big influence on you, and you guys hit it off right off the bat. So as soon as his match was over, I went over and introduced myself to him, because I didn't know he knew, who the hell I was. I wasn't nobody. I was Stunning Steve, and I shook his hand and said, hey, man, I was, badass shit. And we just started talking and became immediate friends, and we became travel partners. And god dang, we went up and down the road together and raised so much hell and had so much fun. And he was just to your point, he is one guy that had a tremendous influence on me and who truly understood what you're trying to do when you get in a squared circle.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, and you'll speak to this too. I mean, a lot of guys in wrestling, man, they won't give you the time of day when you're breaking in. But I mean, to have a guy like Steve Regal who's really accomplished at a time and already done so much in his career, to actually, to spend the time and call me back and check on me and make sure that I was progressing. That it meant the world to me, and it really kind of gave me that confidence boost. That maybe I can do this shit. I can do this for a living.
When did you? At what period of time, years in the business, did you feel like, hey, I've got a good hold of what's going on here from a mechanical standpoint and a psychological standpoint? When you thought you kind of had a pretty good package?
I think in the latter years of ROH, because I think I've had a great opportunity to be a part of two companies kind of from the ground up, and Ring of Honor being one of them. And came up with a great group of guys over there too. A lot of my compatriots they're doing fantastic all around the industry. Punk, Daniel Bryan, Daniels, AJ, and all these guys. And I think being in a promotion like Ring of Honor where you're responsible for the draw. I mean,
right.
There's no, that people aren't showing up because, the branding and stuff. I mean, people were showing up because I was responsible for packing that house.
You're selling tickets.
Yeah, we're selling tickets. So, I mean, right there, that in and of itself, that pressure in and of itself, which, a lot of guys in wrestling nowadays just don't really get to feel outside of a...
No, because they're just on the machine.
Level. Yeah, you're just on the team. That pressure right there really kind of, I think sharpened us all, man. As they get forged in the fires of battle. I think that period in ROH for a lot of guys, because it was on us. It wasn't like we had $1 billion promo team behind us promoting everything we did every week and trying to make us larger than life. I mean, we had to go out there and genuinely win these people over from the ground up. So, I mean, I think right there, that's when I started kind of honing it. And then definitely when I made the transition to TNA, started doing TV and understanding the TV game in pro wrestling, which a lot of guys don't understand, is completely different than the pro game anywhere else or the independent level type of wrestling, because now you're trying to tell an epic trilogy and trying to fit $50 worth of dog shit in a teacup, and so much time you're giving out there. So I mean, you really gotta.
It really cheats the fan, and I can I understand the dynamics of the television business. So many other people don't, but man, to your point, it's just you don't get the real deal on today's television product just because everything's too fast forward and everybody's worried about changing the channel. But before we go back into TNA, because I want to ask you some questions about your current situation over there and talk about your first endeavor into that six-sided ring, but I want to go back quickly to Ring of Honor, because I watched a lot of your matches coming from there, and several great ones with Austin Aries, and of course you mentioned Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, and of course you had a classic with a bigger guy, Kenta Kobashi, which was phenomenal. But you walk at what? You're 6'2", 250?
Yep. No, I'm 6'2", 280.
6'2", 280 right now. So, but check it out. Yep. So going back to the point I'm making, man, you've got the ability to work with a cat that's damn near half your size, because you're out there working. Man, I mean not 50-50, but I mean you have the ability to work with a small guy, a big guy, or a guy in the middle, and a lot of people don't have that going for them. And man, just in watching your psychology, how you measure things, how you sell things, and then finally you'll do that kind of stunned, a little bit of a wobble in the middle of the ring, then wham, go down for that big bump. It's truly an art form to work with some of the cats that you have at a high level and a main event level, which I think you've done.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, man, I mean, it is, man. And I think, it's funny, you talk about psychology, and I remember, early on in my career, I kept thinking to myself, I overthought my psychology. Every little thing I was really trying to put crazy emphasis on. And then, I kind of sat back, and I was really, the psychology of a fight is that it's a fight, and it's chaotic, and that there's ebbs and flows, and some stuff hits clean, and some stuff doesn't. And, I mean, that's what I try to, really do now, man, is I try to make what I do out there look rough. I try to make it look like a fight because, I'm out there to get into a fight, And I think the selling, like you said, the selling aspect is something that's, kind of, I wouldn't say it's a dying art form, but it's definitely an exclusive art form. And
Agreed.
I think a lot of guys that are, they just don't get that progressive sell mentality, and they think too, like I said, they think almost too TV, I guess is the term, that to, give them something flashy and something big, right away to try to keep them tuned in. But, when pro wrestling's done right, there's no extraneous story needed, man. Everything that needs to be said can be said right there in that ring. I'm a firm believer in that, and a lot of that's said through the selling. And I think it's something that I would love to see focused more upon by, the younger guys coming up.
But it would be easy for a cat your size just to work with a lot of the guys that you work with and say, hey, man, I'm the big guy. I'm not going to sell this. I'm not going to take that bump. But, I think you're smart enough at a very early age to realize, hey, these are the cats I'm working with. First of all, and you don't seem like a selfish guy. Some guy will take that selfish, this is the easy way approach. But anytime, to go back to myself for a second, when I went to the ring with whoever it was, hey, don't make a shit. Yeah, we got to take into consideration a little bit of physical size here on that part. But the bottom line is we both need to come out of this thing smelling like a rose. Now, that might be 50-50, 60-40, 90-10, depending on what the dynamic is. But when you're going out there and guys just are smaller than you, You've got to just run with that and be able to work with everybody. And that's what will help your ass draw money, because of Jesus Christ. If all of a sudden you can play the strong man against everybody you work, hey, it's going to be a 90-10 match, and that ain't going to be worth the shit unless you're there purely to get over and not work a top program with anybody. So it takes a lot for a cat to realize that at a young age. And I was reading that you avidly train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, which we covered, Muay Thai, at the LA Boxing in Costa Mesa, California. Is there any truth to that? Because you use a lot of the submissions, a lot of the jiu-jitsu in your pro game.
Yeah, I mean, I have the weird fortune of I grew up with a lot of guys who ended up, I went to pro wrestling route. A lot of my friends ended up fighting. They're in UFC. They're part of UFC. Currently are in UFC or another fighting organization. So it was funny, man. It was they'd be harping on me all the time, and then I'd look over there and see all my starting fighter friends working their ass off to get a shot and coming up, and because of that, I'd come down, and that's the way I like to train, man. I'm big about sparring. I love to get on the mat. I like to train with people. I like to train combat and run drills and do stuff like that. And it's something I always dug when I was growing up, and I still dig doing today.
How far along are you?
I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by people like that.
How far along are you on the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stuff? Do you have a belt?
No, it's more of a no-gi class. It's more of a guys who are getting ready, tuning up for fights, getting ready, and stuff like that. So, we don't grapple in the pajamas.
Hey, I'm sitting here talking to Samoa Joe, one of my favorite cats in the squared circle right now. We're going to come back. I'm going to talk to the big man about blowing up in the rings. I don't think I've ever seen his big ass winded. He works his ass off and never stops. We're going to take a word from our sponsors, the guys that keep this show on the air for free. We've got more good stuff coming back with Samoa Joe. You want to spend less time working on your lawn and more time sitting on your lawn with an ice cold one? Well, here you go. Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and feeds to build thick green lawns. With Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action, you can finally get the lawn you've always dreamt of. When you feed with Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action multiple times throughout the year, your grass will be greener, stronger, and more resilient. Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action will give your yard the nourishment it needs to help your weak, thin lawn recover. Also, Scott's no quibble money-back guarantee states, if you're not satisfied, you get your money back. Simple as that. Slam down a bag today. This is the Scott's Yard. A Los Angeles-based brand called True Niagen has been generating some buzz amongst Hollywood and professional sports teams for its daily supplement that supports health at the cellular level. This vitamin, which increases your levels of NAD, is backed by Nobel-winning scientists, 10 human studies, and global regulatory approvals for safety and efficacy. And that is True Niagen. Increasing NAD provides support and energy for the trillions of cells throughout your body, which decline as you age, as well as with intense exercise and various lifestyle stressors. Exposure to a virus can further deplete your NAD supply. Support cellular resilience and repair with NSF certified for sport True Niagen. Visit TRUNIAGEN.com. Use code STEVE to receive $20 off any 3+ month supply. Live from now until June 30th, 2020. That's right. I'm pacing around. It's the inside of a ring. I'm with Samoa Joe. We're going to lock up collar and elbow. I'm going to grab a headlock on this big son of a bitch and call a high spot in his ear. But before we do that, Joe, we were talking a little bit earlier before we came on the air, and I know we wanted to talk about a charity event held on September 14th, put on by Devon Dudley at the Melbourne Auditorium in Melbourne, Florida. And you're going to be a part of this. It's going to be a wrestling card?
Yeah. But I believe it's myself and a Jay Lethal tagging against a few of the Team 3D Academy boys out there. But it's for a good cause. It's for a single mom who needs a little bit of help. And I'm really looking forward to it, man. Devon's really active in his community, and for whatever differences we may have in the ring, outside the ring, it's good that we can come together and help out some people that need it.
Well, that's good. I mean, I've known Devon for years and years, and him and Bubba Bully Ray have done an awesome job and had such long-lasting careers. You can also go to the website, www.hopeforasinglemom.com. And this event is going to be in Melbourne, Florida at the Melbourne Auditorium on September 14th. And, Joe, before we left off the air, I was talking about you blowing up, your cardio conditioning. You know, you've got this Brazilian jiu-jitsu background, Muay Thai, judo. You got a lot of damn tools you can work with. But let's talk about your lungs. You don't seem to blow up. What's the story?
You got to learn how to breathe, man.
There you go. Got to relax, kid.
Got to relax, kid. You got to know what to use and when to use it, man. I tell people all the time, man. I'm kind of like a specialist when it comes to dealing with big men. You know, a few big guys in the company, they'll come to me and they'll ask me for advice and opinions about how to, work better. And one of the first things they always hit me up with, we got Big Rob Terry, huge specimen of a man, a big Welsh powerhouse, looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger times 10. And, he was asking me, he's like, how do I keep my wind going? How do I do that? And I explained it to him simply. I go, look at yourself, man. You're walking around with a V8 chassis, but your gas tank's still a Hyundai, bro. You still got the lungs same size as me, man. You got an efficiency of movement, my friend. You got to relax. You got to only use what you need to use and keep the rest away from when you need it. And, you can explain it to people all you want, but until they get those reps and experience and calm down and know how their body works and know when their muscles need oxygen and when their muscles need to shut down, it's one of those learned things, man. It's something I can't really come across in words. Just you need reps.
Hey, but check it out. Do you think the fact that you grew up in show business kind of detuned your nerves and got that aspect out of your system? Do you think that helped at all?
Absolutely. It's funny, man. I've had stage fright once in my life, and I've told the story before, but it was, I was 5 years old. It was the 1984 Olympic opening ceremonies. We were doing the Polynesian dance out in the middle of the Olympic Stadium in Los Angeles, and my dad, God bless him, he didn't really take into account that a costume change for the girls. Well, the girls are on the 50-yard line. They got to run all the way back in the locker room, change their costumes, run all the way back out to the 50-yard line, and finish up the dance. Well, my pop didn't really put that into account. So the girls go running off to the 50-yard line. They're in the locker room. I'm sitting there behind the drum. We're sitting there just playing drums. It's dead air in front of 60,000 people in the middle of the stadium. So my dad, being the grand improviser he is, grabbed me by the scruff of my neck, threw me over the front of the drum, and said, "Do a solo, stall." So there I am, the 5 years old, in front of 60,000 people doing a solo. Stalling. We got through it. They thought it was adorable, cute. Got a nice little picture in the paper, and ever since then, it was really hard to be scared of a crowd.
Now, if you come out of the ring a little bit and get some rust on you, does it take you a while to get your wind back, or is it just something that you've always had? Because if there's one thing, when I would come back from the ring after an injury or whatever, man, if I ain't in ring shape, you can get on a goddamn treadmill or elliptical machine or whatever. But to me, cardio is very specific. You need to be back in the ring, taking bumps, hitting those ropes, wrestling, exploding, relaxing, working before you get your damn wind back. Do layoffs affect you, or are you just a damn machine in the ring?
Yeah, they do. If I'm more than, if I 2 weeks off, it takes me about a day and a half just to get reacclimatized to, get back to where I am. It's just one of those weird things, man. I really wish I could tell you I was the crazy cardio machine that didn't need any tuning, but, I definitely know if I and I haven't had many, but if I do have a 2 week layoff, I'm always dreading going back because I know that first one's going to be a pain in the ass.
Dude, when I came into WWF a long time ago, I started working a program with Savio Vega, one of my favorite guys to work with, and coming off a torn tricep, of course, Savio was a machine from Puerto Rico. All the Puerto Rican guys can go, and they're going to get their shit in. So, man, I tell you what, I'd get a little bit of heat on him, and then all the time be time for him to make his comeback, and I'd basically lay in a rear chin lock because I was sucking wind because I was out of shape, and that sumbitch would bounce me all over the damn ring. I had to flip-flop and fly for him. My damn lungs were about to turn inside out, on fire, but Savio was going to get his shit in. And, boy, I tell you what, after about 2 months working with him, we ripped the damn roof off SeaTac Arena right there in between Seattle and Tacoma. And, man, that was a badass match I'll never forget working with that cat. Anyway, ripped the goddamn roof off the place, got back in shape. But anyway, let's talk about we talked about your ring style, how you got up to speed with all the skills that you're bringing to the ring. It comes down to name yourself. You come up with Samoa Joe. How did you come up with that name? What was the process that you went through? Were there any other things that were almost things you used?
This is the most ridiculous story ever, but it's more form over function. Definitely. The gym that I worked at, there was a couple guys named Joe. and one guy was regular Joe, one guy was Samoa Joe. And I remember when I debuted in wrestling, not thinking that it would go this far. Kind of the first week of wrestling, the guy goes, "Oh, well, just be Samoa Joe in the ring." So I was, and I was for my first few indie shows. The problem was, after my first few indie shows, all of a sudden, a few local promoters started calling and saying, "Hey, we want Samoa Joe on our show." And then it was a couple out-of-state promoters. And then, as it kind of grew, I didn't dare change my name because I didn't want to miss out on any work for people going, "Well, I wanted Samoa Joe, not fucking Lance Super Saber," right. Whatever what the hell it would have been. I didn't even get a chance to really flesh out what I wanted my name to be. And like I said, lo and behold, a couple of years later, I was like, "Well, shit, I guess I got to stick with it."
Hey, man, let's talk about that match with Kenta Kobashi. Was that the first time you worked with him, that shot in Ring of Honor?
Yep, first time ever. We had met previously a couple times when I was over in Japan, just real brief, "Hey, how you doing?" meetings, and then, when we got into New York, and we got down.
Man, that was a hell of a damn match. It was just a great match, a hell of a damn match. So obviously, mutual respect on both sides. Had he seen you from film past, or knew who and what you were?
Yeah, man, huge mutual respect. It was funny, man. Kobashi coming into America, he really thought that nobody knew who the hell he was. And he also thought that, he wasn't going to get a reaction. He thought he was going to be booed like he was Mr. Fuji or something. That was really his perception of what would happen in America, because he'd never been over here before.
Right.
And I'm trying to explain to him in my somewhat conversational Japanese that, everybody out there knows you. Everybody knows who you are. Trust me, your tapes have been sold illegally to all these people well before this match was ever put in place. So they know everything. So then, we're calling the match, and he's calling. And when he's starting to, we're starting to put together this match. He's making it really, kind of, 60s heelish.
Right.
I'm the evil Japanese guy. I remember at one point kind of stopping everything and turning around, looking at him, and explaining to him, "Trust me, big baby face.
Right.
Don't worry about anything. You guys go out there, we'll kick ass up. Let me do my thing, you do your thing, and they will love it. Don't change anything." So, they had a little bit of a hard time, kind of taking my word for it. But then finally, the managing guy over there got him to sign on, and we went out there. And when he walked through that curtain, I think that fan reaction was enough to convince him that, all right, these people are here to see me. And we had a lot of fun. It was brutal, it was physical, but when you're given those opportunities, not a lot of guys in wrestling are, you take full advantage of it. And I had a blast, man.
Man, it was a great vibe in that little arena. Where was that? Because, there's a couple thousand people there. It wasn't the biggest place in the world, but, man, the atmosphere was badass. And, of course, like you said, as soon as he came through the curtain, they knew who he was. They knew exactly what they were getting in, and they got a great match. I don't know if they knew what they were going to get a great match or not, but they sure knew who he was. But it was just a great atmosphere. And sometimes those smaller venues are better than a big-ass stadium.
Well, absolutely, man. I think any time that you get, 1,000 impassioned fans compared to 5,000 kind of wayward fans and a spread out arena, you always got a better situation going on. And that night, especially Ring of Honor, with that kind of zealotness of a fan base and them loving Japanese wrestling, which they did, which was the whole reason that the company was created in the first place. It was kind of the perfect mix of everything. It was a perfect night, man. It was crowd, wrestlers, energy, everything. And it all came together, and it was a blast. And it's one of those fond memories you look back on and go, "Oh, we tore the roof off, and we had a hell of a time doing it."
Let's take a little segue into right now. I want to talk a little bit about your first foray into TNA and the current situation going on right there right now. But how are you on a physical level right now? How are you feeling? What are you, 34 years old?
Yeah, 35 actually.
35. How are you feeling? Any major injuries in the ring?
No, man, I've been pretty fortunate in the ring. I've only suffered one concussion my entire career. I liken that to, really understanding the dynamics of how to flow with things and not put yourself in too much danger. But
agreed.
Honestly, this probably over the past months, I had some shoulder injuries, some elbow and stuff. But mainly minor kind of bumps and bruises, wear and tear stuff that you normally get. But I've been fortunate enough to knock on a damn oak tree that I haven't had too many very, very serious injuries, and thankfully nothing involving my spine and my neck, because I know how a lot of dudes. And I do not envy that condition, my friend.
So, dude, when you take a guy your size and you're doing all the great moves, you use the suplexes, the submission game, and then you think, hey man, I'm a big ass cat. I'm gonna haul ass, hit the ropes, and dive through the second, third ropes on a cat. On top of all the other great shit I'm doing. No bad spills on that. That hadn't come back to haunt you yet. It's a dynamic move. It looks great.
That's the one thing I don't understand, man. Like that dive before I even started doing it, man. Like I must have done it a million times. Using a crash pad and really understanding how my body was going to land and stuff. Because I understood, man. You can't be doing that dive all the time, landing on that hip and expect it to last your entire career. So I mean, it's something I've worked on. Let me put it that way. It worked on to the point where. I take as little damage as possible when I do eventually hit the ground.
Two things that really kicked me as far as high impact: the muscle buster. Did you invent that? Where did that come from?
That came from a drunken night in Japan, sitting around
in a hotel room.
In a hotel, sitting around eating Korean barbecue, wondering what we're going to do till 4 in the morning that night, and then. In our drunken super seeing a ridiculous poster and with a ridiculous Japanese anime cartoon on it of wrestling, and then somehow, some way, we ended up in this place, and the owner I guess the owner was a big mark for this muscle thing that they had over there, and so he put on the TV shows we're watching, and the guy did the muscle buster. I said, well, shit, that's a hell of a move. I think I'm gonna start using that, and lo and behold. I think I came back to the States, and I immediately started putting it out as my finisher.
Well, dude, when you start breaking that down to a cat and he's looking at you and you're explaining this thing, I can only imagine the looks in people's eyes as you're trying to drop the 411 of what you want to do to them.
Yeah, I mean, sitting there and trying to tell a guy about the muscle buster it's one of the funniest things ever because it's like I'm going to take you, I'm going to hoist you up on my shoulder. Your neck's going to be jammed here. I'm going to have both your ankles in my hands, and I'm going to proceed to run out in the middle of the ring and spike you. Is that cool? I mean, it's just it's a tough proposition, but I think if a lot of people didn't kind of respect my ability to take care of them, much they did, I don't think I'd ever get that move off.
No, dude, I mean, I'm a guy with a history of neck problems, but when I see that, and after you've seen you do it, if you were going to explain it to me before then, maybe not so much, but after seeing it, it looks totally 100% safe the way you do it.
Yeah, man, I've worked it out to where we all get hurt, but we never want to get injured. So that's the mantra as far as that goes.
So check it out, dude. I got to ask, you go into TNA, they got this 6-sided ring. You get in there, you got to be thinking, what the fuck? Did you adapt immediately? I think, what's going on in your head?
First day I looked in there, I was just like, this is something interesting. But it's funny, man. But as I started to work in it, I really dug the 6-sided ring. I mean, it was no matter which way you went, you were always going the right way eventually. So, I mean, it kind of worked out okay.
So then I was, I remember, I think I sent out a tweet back before they changed to the square. What was the internal decision of when they decided to go to the square ring?
I think that was more directly Hogan and Bischoff. I think they felt that, wrestling fans were acclimatized to the 4 sides and the 6 sides.
Agreed.
Muddled things, confused things. So I think that was kind of the decision behind it. And I mean, the logic sound behind it. I mean, it really didn't, put a hitch in my craw about anything than doing that. So I mean, it was all good for me. I mean, hell, just put me in there. It doesn't matter who's in there, as long as we get the job done.
So, man, let's talk about TNA. You've been down there for a pretty good while now. How long has it been?
Yep, about 8 years now. Thanks.
Man, shit, I ain't going to get you any hot water, but I love your work. Why don't they light your ass on fire, throw up a big green light, and push you to the moon?
Well, that's it's one of those many things that is far and away out of my hands, and I show up to work every day with a smile on my face, ready to do the best that I can, and that's all I can do, man.
I hear you, and duly noted, and good answer, because, what do you say to that?
Yeah, granted, it is a political answer, but, I mean, honestly, it's truly the way I feel, man. Like, I don't get stressed out about things like that, because, at the end of the day, I'm confident enough in my own abilities, I'm confident enough in what I'm able to do in the ring, and I'm confident enough in the fact that if given the opportunity, I'll run with it. So, I mean, they gave me the opportunity, they gave me that one little open window shot, they get my foot in the door, don't worry, I'll kick it down and we'll have a lot of fun.
There's been a couple of matches I've watched you, and you put some guys over clean in the middle with their finish. And to a lot of guys who would go out there that I know in the past and would go out there totally with the boo-boo face. They would go out there and you could read their body language, you could look at their face, and you know they're doing a job because of they didn't want to do business. And so, and I've turned down doing a couple of jobs because it wasn't good business. But by and large, I've always done the right thing. I've seen you go down in the middle of the ring clean, and it never hurts you because of the way you do it. And to me, it gives me a high level of respect for you because of the way you take care of business and the way you can take care of your business.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to stuff like that, the only thing that gets me mad about me ever losing in the ring is when they don't do something with it. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that ever hurts me. As far as my shoulders going down on the mat, I mean, hey, it's wrestling. We'd all love to be the big champion every day, but at the same time, this is a business. It's an entertainment business. Conflict and controversy creates cash. You got to have conflict. You got to have controversy. You got to. You can't always. The formula has to change up. You can't be the invincible juggernaut forever. And and I realize that, and I come to grips with that. Some fans, they don't, but I mean, I understand that, and I appreciate that, man. That's great. But I mean, going out there and, like you said, knowing how to do it too is also important. I mean, I've seen plenty of examples of guys going out in the ring and losing, and I hate to yank your chain a little bit, but I mean, one of the big examples that is always brought up, and it is kind of like, I don't know how many times I've heard this, but you and Bret Hart. When you passed out, with the blood streaming down your face, I mean, that was the way that, hey, you went out, but, I mean, after that match was all said and done, I mean, I think you were infinitely 20 times better off than you were before going in that match, which is hard to believe considering how hot things were at the time. So it's like, you take a little bit of that mantra, and, there's always a right way to do things, it's pro wrestling, it's individual accomplishments. At the end of the day, it's a team sport, and we're all going to succeed together. So, you better be ready to make those sacrifices when the time comes.
There's always a time, when there's too many losses, and that's when it's time to speak up. But I remember, back in the day when I first went to WWF, man, I was doing a job every single night, getting kicked in the chin by Sean, and then passing out and doing a sharpshooter thing with Brett or whatever. I was that mid-range guy, and they hadn't started pushing me yet, and I was just getting jobbed out every night. But I'll tell you something, man, from a learning standpoint and from a different dynamic than where you're at right now currently in your career, man, getting your ass beat every night can damn sure open your eyes and teach you a lot of things, man, because anybody can go out and win a match. It takes a real sumbitch to go out there and lose a match and actually learn something from that match and, you accomplish that to build a rapport with those people. That's how you lose, man. I mean, you can get bit clean, you can get beat quick, 1, 2, 3, whatever, but you can leave that sumbitch smelling like a rose despite the fact that it's an L. Yep.
And, and like I said, man, I think the other big thing, the fact that draws to that is say growing up with a lot of guys who fight as a career and for their life and stuff. I mean, when these guys lose, they get the shit beat out of them, and I got to go visit them in the hospital and try to look at their face and act like it ain't as bad as it looks. But when I lose, at least I get to go down to Cracker Barrel and have myself a sandwich and a Diet Coke and call it a night. I mean, it's really, and the reality of things is if you're worried about that shit, I mean, you're kind of like. You're not really getting the business.
Hey, man, Joe, we talked about a lot of stuff in the business and around the business and all this other bullshit, but as a human being, what does Joe like to do to chill out and relax? You got any hobbies?
Love to fish, big fisher. Like deep sea fish. We got a boat down here in the bay, and we out every once in a while. Love video games. Big video game player since I was a kid, and now, I've been fortunate enough that, a lot of my friends are great game developers, and they send me a bevy of free things every month, so that works out nice. And, I'm a real simple guy, man. Believe it or not, I like doing yard work, like taking care of my house, like doing shit myself. I don't dig paying people to do manual labor on my own property and stuff. It's weird to me. So, yeah, man, I mean, I got pretty, pedestrian hobbies, but when you spend as much time as you do out on the road and doing crazy shit, the pedestrian stuff is very, very appealing.
Well, when you're going out on that boat, are you driving a boat? You get lost, you know what you're doing. You got someone out there with the GPS and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, come on! I come from a long line of fine ocean navigators. I don't know any of that shit, but I got a hell of a GPS system, so yeah, I always know where the hell I'm at.
Oh, man, we grew up fishing down there in South Texas. My dad take off driving that boat, and, I never paid attention. I always had my head up my ass thinking about something. And, hell, if I ever had to get us back to safety, we'd be fucked. Because all we had was a campus on that little piece of shit we used to ride around on with outboard motor. But I say, you like to fish and chill, you play the games. How are you in with this whole technology thing, man? Are you involved with all this shit if you're a gamer? How are you on this computer stuff?
The gamer stuff. See, it's funny, man. There's always a couple guys who have a travel system in their bag. So they actually have a bag with a dedicated TV in the motherfucker and an Xbox, and it's beautiful. So there's always big Madden tournaments, that break out throughout a day if we have a day off or something like that. But
see,
that's part of it. The other thing, what's that?
I was bringing up video games to Steve, and I brought it up in the Kevin Nash interview. And Steve kind of looked at me like I was crazy. He's like, "You young cat playing video games." Are a lot of the guys on the tour now, are they playing in the locker room? Because I know a lot of NFL players, they'll be playing Madden all day with each other.
Not so much in the locker room. I think it's more of a hotel.
Joe, if you tell me you motherfuckers are playing video games in the locker room, I'll drive down to TNA and smoke the shit out of everybody in that sumbitch. Video games are fine, but you can't be doing that shit in the locker room when you got business to take care of. Please tell me you ain't playing video games in the dressing room.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, none of that shit in the locker room. No, it's mostly hotel stuff. We're on the road, or on a long 200-mile drive. It's got a damn car charger, so we just plug that in, and at least for 2 hours you can play Atlanta versus the Rams instead of sitting around listening to bad road stories told over and over again.
Hey, speaking of road stories, I was talking to you the other day.
That was a segue, huh? You like that?
I was talking to you the other day, and I said, if you can drum up a couple of stories that not too many people's lives are exposed or whatever you could tell. You got any good stories from the road? Anything funny from the ring that's happened to you lately or back in the day?
Man, a couple things. Well, I guess the saga of J.D. Dempsey is a great story for this podcast because we can be a little more liberal with what we say. But I am married to J.D. Dempsey. J.D. Dempsey's a good dude, really really great heart. But when I first worked in Japan, he was working over there too. He had a minimal amount of pro wrestling training. He's a pro wrestler, but he was an ex-boxer. And the company that I worked for, they did half work shoot fights and half pro wrestling. So it was kind of a weird mix of guys we had on the tour. So J.D. Dempsey, being a boxer he was, he'd taken a few to the head here and there, and he thought like, I'm J.D. Dempsey, and this is if you met you, be, hey Steve Austin, budget me, I'm J.D. Dempsey, you're a bitch, no you're not, yes you are. Like he talked in circles to himself, everything. Right. It was great. But the best part was he had no filter when it came to promos, and then you combine that with Japanese television, which they'll let you say damn near anything because they're not translating half of what you said anyways. And we get out there, and it's my first TV interview in Japan, and we're sitting there and we're thinking, we got to be prim and proper. It's Japanese television. You can't act like a fool on Japanese television. You got to act like, it's a serious fight and a serious word. But so they start off the interview, and of course they start the press conference to J.D. Dempsey, who, for an hour press conference, which everybody was supposed to speak, he proceeds to take up 45 minutes of it, screaming, first of all, fuck Japan. I'm here for your men and your women. Also, again, I hate you. I hate this TV station. This host is ugly. I don't know. And proceeds and launches the most racist tirade against Asian people I've ever heard in my entire life. So we're sitting there, and he does this whole thing, and all the other Americans, we're on this side, and we got our heads in our hands, and we're trying to not bust up beyond belief at him just going off. And so he finally gets on the tirade. We do the rest of the show, and now here comes the final out. So here we are. We're all lined up at the thing, and it's supposed to be a quick little, hey, check out my fight tomorrow night. I hope I'm going to win. Thank you very much. And then they translate into something else that you didn't say anyways. So we go down the line. The first couple guys, and the third guy, of course, is J.D. Dempsey. And J.D. Dempsey gets up there and goes, all right, I told you once again, all you guys are fucking bitches. I hate this place. I wish all you people would die. Fuck Hashimoto. Fuck Ogawa, you're all a bunch of punk ass, and then he drops the N-word. We go off TV. I'm sitting there kind of staring at everybody. I'm just like, did he just call everybody in Japan a bunch of... And, of course, I look at J.D. Dempsey. I said, Dempsey, man, what are you doing, man? What did you say after that stuff? He said, well, what I say, I thought I was very entertaining and enlightening. It's just... That's the saga of J.D. Dempsey, man. But it doesn't end there. I wouldn't end it on a dry note. Where it ends is, so that night, J.D. goes out and he picks up a beautiful young girl, and we're very impressed. Like, wow, J.D. Dempsey, yeah, I'm gonna marry her. I'm in love with her. All this stuff. They're like, it's great, man. It's great. We go back home. We come on tour the next day. He gets on the phone. Nakamura, I need your phone. Baby, what's up? It's me, J.D. Dempsey. I'm back in Japan. We're doing great. I'm Dempsey. John, why you acting crazy? Don't you know who this is? Anyways, baby, I'm going to be in Roppongi in 2 hours. Dempsey, Josh Dempsey. So we're all dying in the car because the chick's totally kayfabing him. Gets back to the hotel. He's trying to call his broad. So me and his manager go out to have drinks. We go to this bar. We're sitting there having drinks, and lo and behold, there's his girlfriend. So, of course, his manager goes to talk to him. Aren't you talking to my guy? He's been trying to call you all night. And then halfway through the conversation, he kind of stops and takes a look at her. And he notices that it's Japan. It's the middle of summer. It's hot as hell. She's always wearing a turtleneck. Lo and behold, he pulls down that turtleneck, and the largest Adam's apple I've ever seen on a woman ever comes popping out from behind the turtleneck. At this point, I'm 19 years old. I'm grabbed, pulled from a bar, dragged down the street into a hotel. His manager, who's an ex-kickboxer, he proceeds to kick in the front door and goes, "You idiot, it was a man." To which he goes, really? No. But I love her. Poor J.D. Dempsey, he's let down severely. And of course, the question is, did you hit it? How did you not know? No, I never did. We just hung out and snuggled. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, you just hung out. Shit. I'm going to let that so much more of my snorkel.
Yeah,
Joe, let's talk about 5-10 years down the road. Theoretically, where are you going to be? Still in the ring?
I hope so, man. I hope so. I think 5 or 10 years down the road, I'll still be wrestling, but I also have some other ventures going on. So I mean, hopefully, 5 to 10 years down the road, I'll be wrestling on my terms. That's my biggest goal.
Wrestling on terms. I read you do a little bit of stunt work. You got interested in acting, anything like that?
A little bit. Like living out in LA. I had a lot of opportunities to did the casting call visits and stuff. Did some work for CBS. Under Norman Howe, who's an awesome dude and legend up there as far as stuntmen go, and we actually filmed a bunch of stunt scenes for Jericho and some CSI Miami, or I think CSI Miami.
Yeah, you should get on the new Hawaii 5-0. You'd be great for Hawaii 5-0.
The traps. I know. I got to talk to my agent. Man. He's slacking off, man. So.
We'll have our people call your people, and they'll call their people, and it'll be a big clusterfuck.
You know how it works.
Joe, you guys got an interesting situation going on down there with Aces and Eights. How's that shaking out? You guys going to weather the storm?
Oh, we'll weather the storm. I mean, eventually, hopefully, it'll shake out in the ring, and we'll get all parties involved in one big brouhaha, and we'll figure out what's what. So, I mean, that's what I'm gunning for. I think we're pushing for that next week, and we'll see how it all comes about.
Well, check it out. I've been talking to Samoa Joe, one of my favorite cats in the squared circle. You can follow him at Samoa Joe. He's going to be working at a charity event held by Devon Dudley at the Melbourne Auditorium in Melbourne, Florida on September 14th. You can go to the website, www.hopeforasinglemom.com, and help a sister out. Joe, thanks for being on the show. It's great to talk to you, and I'll be watching you whoop some ass down there in TNA, and I wish you all the best in the world, and I hope you come back on the Steve Austin Show and talk to me again.
Pleasure, man. I'd love to be back, and appreciate the accolades. And man, it's been a lot of fun, man. And I'm sure we'll do this again soon.
All right, brother. Safe travels and safe landings. We're gonna come on right back, wrap this thing up with Mo, and get our ass down the road. Coming back after a word from our sponsors, our very important sponsors that keep this show on the air for free. Though we're apart these days, we're sharing more. And Geico would just like to say thanks. Thanks for sharing your savage dance moves. Thanks for sharing your DIY haircut fails. Thanks for sharing your inner lip sync star. Now it's Geico's turn to share too with the Geico Give Back, a 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies for current and new customers. And because Geico's committed for the long haul, the 15% credit lasts your full policy term. Visit geico.com/giveback. for info and eligibility. All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset. Don't forget to rate and review the Steve Austin Show on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends to check us out. If you want to reach me here on the podcast, send an email to question@steveaustinshow.com. And the best IPA in America on planet Earth is Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company. You can get Broken Skull IPA at Whole Foods and Total Wines. If you live in California, scratch that. You can get it almost anywhere in California. You can get it in 17, 18 states now. If you ain't in Cali and we're not in your state, check out ElSegundoBrewing.com because we might just be headed your way. And you can also click on the interactive map. Click on Broken Skull IPA. Find a location nearest you. I want to say thank you to everybody for supporting this badass beer, because it's been a dream of my life to have a beer go nationwide like this, and I'm really proud of this beer. So check out elsegundobrewing.com to find out a location near you. Hey, if I'm out on the woods, you're going to find me proudly riding my Mean Green Machines, Kawasaki. And I want to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show, especially Bet Online, Geico, Rocket Mortgage, Scott's, True Niagen. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. Please support them because they support us. If you need more info, check out the show description to this episode for details. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Hey, this is NFL Hall of Famer Ray Lewis. I'm excited to announce the launch of my new podcast, Everyday Greatness, the Ray Lewis Podcast. I'll be talking with friends, family members, old teammates, athletes, celebrities, moguls, and guess what? I'll be talking to you. Listen, this is all in the search for everyday greatness. So I'm asking you to come along with me on this ride. Download new episodes of Everyday Greatness, the Ray Lewis Podcast, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on PodcastOne.com. It's not what you have, it's what's inside of you that actually inspires greatness.